Hello everyone, welcome to the Sapient Academia. Today we'll be discussing comedy of manners. So here is the timeline. First we will be talking about background of comedy of manners, that how it flourished in the Restoration Age. Then we'll talking about comedy in general and comedy of manners, a bit about definition. Then we'll move towards history and evolution, that how it originated in the classical Greece. So from the classical Greece to the Restoration Age, all the important writers and their important works. After that, we'll move towards realism and satire being the chief mediums for this kind of drama. Then we'll be discussing plot construction and dialogues. And finally, criticism. Critics who have supported this kind of drama and those who have rejected. So stay tuned with us, watch the video until the end to know about all these things in detail. Bonhomme Dobre has given a statement that in the history of dramatic literature, there are some periods which are predominantly comic and some which are definitely tragic. Tragedy flourishes when religious, moral, and social values are fixed. Comedy when all these values are uncertain. So, based on this particular statement, it's quite vivid that why comedy of manners flourished in the Restoration Age, because there were religious, moral, and social issues. And in the result of those issues, comedy flourished. Let us go through the background of comedy of manners. If you've gone through the previous lectures, it will be easier for you to understand. As in 1642, theatres were banned. There was Age of Milton. Then theatres reopened in 1660. We have discussed all these things in the previous lecture. And after the restoration of the theatre, comedy of manners flourished. But in between these years from 1642 to 1660, the theatres were closed. And during this time, the people of England showed their interest in French literature. They were inclined to French literature. In those days, French literature openly promoted vulgarity and sexuality. People of England, on the other hand, read this kind of drama and they developed the taste of French literature. So, in this way, the English literature and English people had too much impressed by French literature. Even King Charles II was also inspired by French literature. He supported this kind of drama, the vulgar and sexual drama. So, there were no restrictions on the dramatist. In the Restoration Age, the women actors, on the other hand, you could see that they were allowed to act on the stage. Before the Restoration Age, women were not allowed to participate on stage. So, modern technology was used in the theater like sound effects, light, moving scene, etc. So, there was full freedom for the dramatist to go for vulgarity, sexuality, and even women were allowed to participate in the theaters. So, there was a great effect of the French literature on English literature in the Restoration Age. If you talk about comedy in general, so a comedy is a play with happy ending and aims at making people laugh at certain follies, vanities, hypocrisies, and weaknesses of people for reforming society. So this is the most important thing, that reforming society is must. Its purpose is not just happy ending, not to laugh, but to teach. If you've gone through the series of satire lectures, you'd have come to know that reforming the society is a prominent factor in comedies. So you must not neglect that all the comedies are for the purpose that to tell you how to reform the society. Going back to the Bonhomme Dobre statement, which I said earlier, that comedy flourishes when all the religious, moral, and social values are fluid. They're not fixed, they're not certain. So in such a way, comedy flourishes because comedy teach you how to reform the society. Now if we talk about comedy of manners, which is also called anti-sentimental comedy, is a comedy that deals with the behavior of people. That is why it's called comedy of manners, because it deals with manners. Further, we can say it is the true mirror of temper and outlook of society. So it is the true mirror of society which reflects that it is a realistic kind of literature. And new classical literature is realistic. It's objective and didactic in nature. So comedy of manners flourished in Restoration age, that is from 1660 till 1700. Comedy of manners flourished from 1660 till 1710, but inside these years, two periods are well known for comedy of manners. One is from 1668 till 1676, and the second one is from 1693 till 1607. These two periods are chiefly known by comedy of manners because most of the comedies have been written in these two periods. If we talk about the history, so comedy of manner originated in classical Greece, that is from 325 to 260 BC. So you must remember that it originated in classical Greece in the works of Menander. So the first known writer is Menander of classical Greece. And then Menander's style of writing was imitated by Roman playwrights such as Plautus, Terence, and even Horace. Horace's Satire 1.9 is the prominent example. In this particular literature, you could see that the persona is unable to express his wish for his companion to leave. So he's trying to use such witty dialogues in order to leave his companion. And in the 17th century, the comedy of manners is best realized in the plays of French writer Molière. So Molière is best known for comedy of manners. Here are some prominent works: The School for Wives, that has been published in 1662, The Impostor 1664, and The Misanthrope 1666. In all these plays, the French writer Molière basically satirized and criticized the hypocrisies and pretensions of the ancient regime. Ancient regime is basically a French regime that ruled France from 15th to 18th century. So Molière basically criticized that particular regime. And then finally, the Restoration writers. As in the beginning of the lecture, we said that English literature was greatly influenced by French literature, especially in the case of comedy of manners. So here are the three prominent writers in the Restoration age. The first one is Sir George Etherege, the second one William Wycherley, and William Congreve. Here are their prominent works. Etherege has written Love in a Tub, The Man of Maud, She Would If She Could. Wycherley has written Love in a Wood, The Country Wife. Congreve, Love for Love, The Way of the World. These are the prominent comedies of manners in the Restoration age. If we talk about the chief medium of these plays, so comedy of manners is characterized by realism, social analysis, and satire. Says a critic that in the school of Etherege and Wycherley, idealism entirely disappeared. So it was a kind of realistic literature. Further, he says their aim was to copy minutely the manners of domestic life. So they were basically reflecting the society, the exact society, the what is happening in the society. It was a kind of realistic literature. Because the scene of most comedy is in London. Coffee and chocolate houses, clubs, and you could say gambling houses, the fashionable ladies and men, all these things, the clandestine love affairs, and even gambling. So it was a true picture of the society of that age. If we talk about plot construction and dialogue, so all the writers basically focused on dialogues. They were trying to polish their dialogues. They were trying to make it more witty, rather than to focus on the plot construction, which Aristotle thinks is the soul of tragedy, you could say the soul of drama. So dialogues were more important, and individual scenes were more important than the plot construction. So you must remember it. And finally, here is the criticism. We'll be discussing different critics, those who have rejected this kind of drama and those who have supported. So the first one who rejected comedy of manners is Jeremy Collier. There is much immorality in Restoration age, says Jeremy Collier, and he was the first to raise his voice against the immorality. Followed by Dr. Johnson in his Prologues book, 1747, he says intrigue was plot, obscenity was wit. That pleased their rage and did not aim to mend. And lastly Stephen, written by blackguards for blackguards, he says. So according to him, this particular drama has been written by blackguards for blackguards. Blackguards are those who are using obscene language. However, here are the two critics who supported comedy of manners, Bonamy Dobry and Nicol. Bonamy Dobry says it was immoral because the society it mirrored was immoral. The society was immoral, so was the drama, because it was reflecting the society. And Nequil says, condemn the society of the Restoration Court. We need not to condemn the dramatist. So he has also supported the comedy of manners and the dramatist. Both of them supported comedy of manners. That's all for today. Stay tuned with us for more videos like this. Like, share, and subscribe.